Okay, so this is kind of my first YouTube video. A few days ago, I actually wrote an article on Elixir. The article title is a collection of tips for Elixir's Interactive Shell or IEX. So I decided to do a video version of it just to kickstart my YouTube channel. So let's see how it goes. Let me launch my RubyMine. So I actually use RubyMine with Elixir plugin. So that gives me a nice Elixir environment to do the development. For this video, I will actually have two different terminal running. One is under Elixir Playground, so you can see the path. So this is available on my GitHub actually, so I'll provide link in the description. And these are basically mix-based Elixir project, not like the Phoenix ones. And the other one is inside Phoenix 1.4. I have a project called Mini Twitter. I'll provide link to that too also in the description of this video. And I'll be running actually Elixir version 1.10.2. Let's check out the version. Elixir -v. So that should print out the version. So you can see the Erlang or OTB version is 21 and Elixir version 1.10.2. So if you are running a different version of Elixir, some of the tips may not actually work. So you have to pay attention to that. Having said that, let's go over the tips and I'll do a live walkthrough. So let's see. Okay. So the first tip I had is basically how to get help out of Elixir Interactive Shell or IEX. So if I go to RubyMine and launch Elixir, by the way, we can launch IEX multiple ways. So you can just type IEX and start the shell itself like this. Or you can, if you are inside a mix project, you can do IEX -x mix phoenix.server. Since in this terminal I'm inside a Phoenix project, so I'll just type this command and this should start the shell. Okay, let's wait for that. I see some warnings from the project because it was done using an earlier version of Elixir, but let's clear up the shell and ignore the warnings for now. Similarly, like I can start IEX inside a non-Elixir project, like I have a project for issues. So it's a mix-based Elixir project, but not Phoenix. So I can start it using IEX -s just mix. That should launch it. So let's go to my tips page. So the first one is getting help. So the way to do it is basically to type the h command once you enter the shell. And this will actually print a nice help, as you can see, like how to basically get help out of Elixir Interactive Shell itself. So there are quite a number of commands and a good summary of the commands available. If we want help about a particular module, let's say enum, I can just type h enum, and this should print help about enum module itself. So this is the help. If I want to look up a particular function inside this module, I can also do that. Like if I want to look up the documentation or help for the reverse function inside in a module, it's possible to do that using enum.reverse/1. So that should print the help for this particular function from the module. And there are also other help tips available, like there are many commands. We'll go over some of these, but if you want to explore, there are many other helpers available that you can read through and use it in your own project or day-to-day work. Having said that, let's move on to our second tips. That would be actually getting value of past expression. So when I was working on Rails, Ruby Rails, I had this way to nicely get the value of the past command, because in some cases I had to type a long command and I didn't want to go to all the way to the beginning to assign it to some variable. So this can be done pretty easily. Like you can see, I have this expression, and if I type it, it executes. But if I want to assign the value to some variable, I have to scroll up and go all the way to the beginning to assign it to some variable. Let's say var equal. Okay, just var should actually print it. So that is the way to do it if you did not have the way to get the value of the last expression. But we have a nice way to do that. We can basically say var equal to v and the expression number. In this case, the number is 6. So this number, this should, sorry, this is from line number 5. So this should actually get the value from line 5 and assign to var. So if I just type var, it prints 3 to 1. And if it is the last command, there is a shortcut too. So I'm going to type it, reverse 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I can type num var equal to v. And if I print num var, it should print that particular list. Okay, so that was a nice way to actually get the value of an old expression and put it in a variable. I find it pretty useful when I work with Elixir or Ruby Rails. Okay, tip number 3 is basically how to recompile a project or a module if you change something. So the way to do it is basically to type the command recompile. If I go to RubyMine, so I can actually type the recompile command without changing anything. Since I have not changed anything in the code, it's printing a knob. But if I change something, let's see what I can change. I can go to one of my controllers maybe. Let's go to, let's expand this. Go to post controller. And I know there was a problem, some variable was not used. So like, let's say I just change it to post something and see how it goes and try to recompile it. So this is compiling one file and the compilation was successful. In this case, the post variable was actually never used, so it did not give any error. So that's how it should be actually written if some variable is not used, to ignore its value. But there is another shortcut way to do that. Like if you want to compile a particular module and not the whole project, you can just, let's say I want to compile this particular module. I can just do R and then the module. And this should actually recompile that module. Let's say I change it back and get rid of this from before post. In this case, if I try to recompile, it's giving me a warning now, variable post is unused. So, but it's actually reloading the module and compiling it, so I can just have it back and compile it. Okay, so that is tip number 3. The next tip is basically to search and complete command. So basically, if you use bash shell, you have this option to type command controller, and actually it will autocomplete and let you search through the old commands. So you can do the same. Okay, so if I do command R, it should let me search through the commands. And then if I want to re-execute this, I can just press enter or the arrow key and should put it back on the IX shell. And then I can press enter to actually execute it. So that's a nice way to actually search through old commands. That was tip number 4. To go to tip number 5, it's basically enable shell history. So if you are actually having some kind of history and you want to maintain the execution history of the shell commands, then you can start your IEX shell using this particular command. And this will actually let you scroll through all the previous commands. So let's just start one from another new terminal. So I started it, and I'm going to try some command now. So let's try to print help. Let's try to help about enum module. And I want to exit this shell, which should be Control-C twice. So then I want to relaunch it. And now you can see I can actually use the arrow keys and the commands are available for me to execute. So if I just type enter, it should execute this particular command. Okay, so I would suggest to create an alias or put it in the bash shell, shell script.bashrc, so that you can just type IEX and it should actually launch always in history mode enabled. The next tip I have is breaking out of expression. So sometimes you may actually have a long list of expressions that you are in the middle of it and you don't want to complete it. So let's say you're typing this and in the middle you decide to break out of your expression. So you can just do that too. If we do it here, so sorry. Okay, so if I want to define a module and I want to break out of it, so I can do it. Let's say I'm trying to define a module called break to, then inside that module I want to define a function, break function to, but then I want to break out of it. I can just type IEX break and this should put me out of that incomplete expression. So that was tip number 6. Tip number 7 is basically how to use the .iex.exe file. You can read all about it in the official documentation. I have a link to it here of IEX, but let's say we want to create one for our users. So I'll just create one here in this project. So yeah, if I right click, new file, .iex.exs, and put these 2 lines inside that file. For now, I'm not going to add it in Git. So I can just put the files I want to copy from here, the lines. This should create an alias. So basically, I want to import these aliases in my shell once I launch this project in IEX. So let's, I think I need to exit the shell first and relaunch it. So let's abort and exit from the shell, relaunch it. Okay, now if I type user, it should find the alias. You can see that it's typing mini Twitter accounts user, even though I just typed user. Same for relationship, it should print the full value. So that was that. Tip number 7. Okay, the next one is load a module or script in IEX. Basically, how you can, from inside a IEX shell, you can load a particular Elixir file and compile it, or you can execute a particular Elixir script. So this one I will do in a pure Elixir project, and I already launched it. So I should be able to uh, load the particular module. Let's say I want to load the ex file from lib folder. So I give lib issues.ex, and it actually loaded the particular module. I see the warning because I'm already in the shell for this particular project, so it's already loaded. But you can see that it actually reloading and compiling it. But if you are inside if you want to launch a script this way, let me go out of this and find a script. I think I should find it inside Elixir project. And there is a script called elixirbook.exs. So if I am inside IEX and I want to load this script, I can just type elixirbook.exs. And in case of a script, it actually executes the script right here, so you will see some output. So you can see the script is actually being interpreted, and all the outputs are coming through. There is some error, but let's ignore that. But that's the idea. Okay. The next one I want to go through is tips number. Okay, so the next tip would be to display information about some term in Elixir. The command is basically I, and it takes one parameter, basically the term that you want to get information about. So let's say if I go back and I have the user alias already created and relationship. So if I want information about this relationship module or term, I can actually type this, and this should give me an detailed information about this particular term. Okay, so if I come to the IEX shell and type the command I user, remember we already loaded this user using our IEX.exs ls, so it should actually print information about this particular term. So you can see the detail here, like the term is mini-Twitter account user, data type atom, and also where the Beam file and the source code is located. And the other thing that can be useful is what protocols are being implemented by this particular module or term. I can also do let's say some built-in library function or some particular type. Let's say we want to do it on integer. So you can see that integer is an atom. The bytecode is located here and it's coming from this module. The source code is located here, and also the protocols that is being implemented by this module. So there is this tip. The next one is printing all available modules. Sometimes you may wonder like if your modules have been successfully loaded. So you can just do : tab in the shell, and this should actually print all the modules that have been loaded at this point. So if you wonder, like, if your particular module is loaded or not, you can do this command and get through. You can just search through this output and see if the module is actually loaded. Okay. The next one is basically tip number 11, list all macros or functions from a module. Let's say we want to see what are the functions that are being exported by this particular module. So we can just do an exports command and followed by the module that we want to examine. So if I come here and paste my command, or let me just type it, exports mini Twitter accounts. This exports all the functions that are being exported by this particular module. There is another way to do it. Basically, if you want information about all the macros and functions exported by a particular module, you can actually do this minitwitter.accounts.moduleinfo, and if we run it, you can see it's printed not just the exported function, it also prints MD5 hash, source file location, and other. If we just want to restrict to exports, we can pass a key, and this should just print the exported function. Okay, cool. So this was tip number 11. The next tip is basically list all types from a module. Even though Elixir is a dynamic programming language, sometimes it helps to define the types for documentation and also to analyze using static analyzer tools. So you can just do T on a particular module and see what are the types defined by that particular module. So T enum should actually print all the types defined in this particular module. As you can see, there are actually 5 different types defined by enum module. Okay, and the last tip I have is multi-line expression. This one can be really useful if you are copy pasting code from some source. So let's say you have a multi-line expression and you want to paste it in your IDE. In that case, you can actually use this particular tip. So if you go like this, I have it written actually. So if I copy this and paste it in shell, it will actually give an error because the first line gets executed and the second line doesn't make any sense. But if I surround it using parentheses, then it should be successful. So you can see it's printing 1, 2, 3 as a list after flattening. So I think this is the number of tips that I had at this point. Yeah, so I guess this will be kind of helpful for some people. If you want to go through IEX official documentation, I have a link to that doc, and also the mini Twitter app I have linked here. I will put description and the link to the Phoenix Playground and also the Elixir Playground projects that I have on my GitHub. You can download those code and play with it more. Okay, that would be all for this particular video. If you like it, don't forget to give a thumbs up, and also I will appreciate your comments and feedback.